Well, welcome to the Week 1 recording for Computer Fundamentals. In the Week 1 recording, right down here, this is different from the Getting Started recording. So Getting Started recording is already over here, but Week 1 recording is down here in the Inside the PC unit. Now the Inside the PC unit is going to be part of this week, and then it'll be part of next week. So this week for Inside the PC, we're just going to go down here through section 3, and then next week you'll do section 4, etc. So this is going to be the recording for week 1 to help you with this write-up, and this is going to cover history of personal computers. You're going to skip this discussion, then there's a quiz, then the key building blocks of a computer. So that's what this recording is going to cover. This will be a pretty quick one. So the way my recordings go, I'll just go right in and look at the questions. So here I am, the week 1 write-up. And of course on these write-ups, just like the getting started write-up, you copy and paste into a word processor, find the answers as you watch this recording, answer within the word processor, check your spelling and all that. Then you copy and paste everything into the Dropbox, not attaching a file. So you would do this, you'd highlight all this, paste into a word processor document, then you would find the answers as you watch this recording and do all of this. And you just copy and paste it into the Dropbox, not as an attached file. So in section 2, you're going to use this site right here, this link right here, to tell me how Disney used computers in 1939. Number 2, the abbreviated name of the first generation computer. How big was it? How many people did it take to operate it? Number 3, who invented the first microprocessor and when? Number 4, how are some tiny switches for microprocessors created? Number 5, how is Moore's law related to computing speed? And number 6, explain a graphical user interface and explain what GUI was when the first Mac computer came out. So we'll concentrate on those as we look through the history of personal computing. So inside the PC unit. So as you look inside the PC, this talks about a student's going to become a doctor. They can't just look at the outside of the body, they have to look at the inside, right? Well, to learn about computing, if you know a little bit about the insides of computers, it'll help you kind of understand how computers operate, and you can understand how certain things happen within computers. So that's what this is. So we're going to look at the building blocks of computers, get an introduction to Microsoft Windows, operating systems, and how a computer operate, etc. And we'll even look at the future of computers and see what might happen 20 years from now. So history of personal computing. So here's where we're going to start answering some of the write-up questions. So you can see the history of technology is what this is talking about. So the ball bearing that allowed things to roll and move, microscope in 1608. So you can see some history right here. And when do you think the first computer was invented? Right in this timeline. So you can kind of think about that. You can go look at this timeline if you want to look at computers. You don't really need to. Now, in this section, in section 2, we're going to look at exploring the history of computers, compare and contrast different types of computers. So the mainframe, that was the first computer, and it was called ENIAC, Electronic Numerical Integrator and Calculator. So that was a computer just to do math, essentially. First used in 1946, size of a small apartment, first general purpose computer. It took a team of 6 women that would operate. So they would maneuver these cables and plug these cables into different places to make operations happen. So that's part of the answer to one of the class connect write-up questions. The answer is right there for you. The ENIAC could do 350 multiplications per second. How many do you think today's computers can do? I'm going to hit a million or more, and let's see. So now it does, actually that's a billion or more. So significantly faster than 350 that the one back in the old days could do, right? There's some more questions. You can go through and answer some more questions here. See, oh, that's just one question. So, And here are some things that people said about computers. This guy, Charles Turing, he said computers in the future may weigh no more than 1.5 tons. So he was thinking that they would be smaller than that ENIAC computer. Of course, no idea that we would have personal computers that we could carry around. And in 1950, so he talks about, computers talking and things like that. The invention of the microprocessor. Microprocessor is what allowed computers to move into homes. Like the old-time computer, the original computer had to go into a small space like a house or something. Microprocessors, they're small circuit chips called integrated circuits that contain millions of switches. These switches are built by growing them out of chemicals. So that's an answer to the Class Connect Write-Up question. So these switches are built out of chemicals. Intel invented the first one in 1971. So that's who invented the first one, and that was in 1971. So if you look at the inside of a computer, you'll see lots of these little microprocessor chips in there. The growth of the processor. So processors grew quickly. Gordon Moore, he helped found Intel. In 1965, he said the number of transistors that can be placed on an integrated circuit is doubling every 2 years. So really what Moore's law, what it actually means is that the speed and capacity of computing technology is doubling every 2 years. So that's how Moore's law is related to the speed of computers. And this isn't really your answer right here, but the idea is that with speed and capacity doubling every 2 years, then obviously computers can process more and they speed up. That's how Moore's law is related to that. IBM processor was the first personal computer. It really came in that allowed personal computing, for people at home. Then Apple came on the scene. Commodore had a computer. Tandy, which is Radio Shack, had a computer. Apple came up with the 2S that they put in schools in the late 80s or so, or mid 80s. Then PC clone wars. And what that means is that a lot of these companies like Compaq, Dell, and others, they made computers that were IBM compatible. Like the laptop that you got from Insight, that's IBM compatible. So it's different from a Mac computer. So that's what IBM compatible means, is that it's that it is based on the original IBM type computers that came out, but it's not like a Mac or an Apple computer. That's what IBM compatible is. Now about the Mac, of course, Macintosh or Mac computers came out, and they ran different software, different look, and different feel from the PC computers. You can see how much different this is from PCs, and of course it had a keyboard that would plug in. So much different from the PC computers. And a lot of the hardware and software are different. And Macs, they really ran the first Windows computers. Now the great thing about Macs is that they focused on images rather than commands, so they created the graphical user interface, which had icons that you would put your mouse on to make things operate. PC computers, you had to type in words to make the computer do things. Macs, you would use your mouse and click on icons or click on pictures to make things happen. Here's a little self-check in the course. Make sure you go through all these self-checks. This is just a drag and drop to see what you learned, what you know. And we're not doing any of the discussions in the class, so don't worry about doing that. But you can see some of these questions I have as part of the write-ups. And you have a quiz. So the first quiz for the class, and right here are the quiz previews, and here's the quiz. So this has all the quiz previews for the whole unit, not only for week 1 but also week 2. So this can help you do the quiz. Now let's go back to the write-up, see if we answered these questions. So the first one, you're going to go to this website right here to answer about Walt Disney. We answered that one. Who invented the microprocessor and when? We did that. How are some tiny switches created? We talked about that. Moore's laws on computing speed, we talked about. Explain what the graphical user interface was when the first Mac came out. We talked about that. So we did all of this, answered all those questions. All right, section 3. What is the motherboard of a computer and what does it contain? 1 kilobyte equals how many bytes? How are memory and storage different? This one input and one output device. So now we're going to go into section 3. So section 3, now we're talking about the building blocks, the internal parts of the computer. And some of you have probably, you have laptops, so obviously it doesn't look like this. But if you could look inside your laptop, it would have miniature versions of all of these. A miniature fan, miniature CPU, the process, or not CPU, but the power unit, the CPU and the chips down in here. So they have miniaturized ones. And the miniaturized ones are all because of what microprocessors allow. So in this section, we're going to look at models and illustrations of computer systems, demonstrate an understanding of computer basics and basic knowledge of systems, and identify the parts of a computer and their functions. So the motherboard, the first thing you see, it's a large circuit board. That's what the motherboard is. The motherboard is the central body of the computer. It contains the microprocessors, the system memory, and everything. So the motherboard is the central body of the computer. And that's what it contains. That's where everything plugs into the computer, into the motherboard. Now some of the other building blocks, memory is really important. Now memory is what processes the key commands you put in. That's memory. So it keeps things moving within your computer. It processes all of the activities that the computer needs to do. So that's what memory does. It processes computing activity. So that's what memory does. And usually that's called RAM, like random access memory. 8 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, random access memory. So that's what memory does, is it just processes all the commands for a computer. And memory is processed in bits and bytes. And what you can do down here is do this drag and drop. And there was that one question, how many bytes is a kilobyte? So hopefully you can figure that out by doing this drag and drop. Now we get to storage. Storage is where programs and work that you do, files, are stored. So that's how memory and storage are different. Memory is what allows the computer to operate. It processes commands. But then storage is where your files and programs live, where they stay. So that's how memory and storage are different. So you need to know the difference between those things. Input and output. Of course, anytime you put information in a computer, that's called input, and keyboard is the input that you use. Mouse is an input. Now with Windows 8, where you have touch screen, that's input. Voice can be input. All kinds of, a scanner can be input. All kinds of things can be input. Then output, of course, will be the monitor that you look at, because your information comes out and you're able to use it. A printer is also good as output. So go ahead, look through these, see if you can guess what they are beforehand. I'm sure you can get them all right. Take a tour of your computer. Here's a video. You can go learn about how computers work, and look and find a little bit more information about computers in general. Some study help. A couple of websites you can go study to learn about computers. There's a fun test. You can go test your computer knowledge. And finally, the quiz. So this is the second quiz for this section. And here it is right here, Unit 1, Section 3 quiz. And of course, the preview is again right up here, the preview for both of these quizzes. So that wraps up what this second week, or this first week, is. So if I go up here to Course Home, actually I want to go to the Write-Up, or not the Getting Started Write-Up. I want to go to the Week 1 Write-Up. So Week 1 Write-Up, we answered those before, and these we just answered. What is the motherboard and what does it contain? Talked about that. I showed it to you. 1 kilobyte equals how many bytes? You need to find that out. How are memory and storage different? I talked about that. And list one input and one output device. So very easy answers to turn in this Week 1 write-up. So that's all I have for you. I'm going to go back to the announcements, and we'll look at Week 1. And of course, there's the Tuesday stuff, and then we just covered all of this Thursday stuff. So you're going to have, for this whole week, you have this write-up to turn in, introduce yourself, learning plan, and the second part of the week you have Week 1 write-up, quiz 1, quiz 2. So that's what this all looks like, everyone. I look forward to your work coming in. Thanks, everyone. Bye.